Come on.
3, 2, 1.
That was close.
I was a little ahead of you.
You were a little earlier, but I don't know.
It's all right. You can open this one.
Okay, that's okay.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast, the Audiolink podcast.
Indeed. This week, is it weekly? I don't know. We'll figure that out.
Yeah,
this episode, we're talking about band relations.
Band relations.
Whatever that means to you.
We're going to share with you guys the best way in the world. There is no better way than what we're going to explain because we know everything.
I didn't say that. You said that.
We did not say that. All right, that's not what we're saying. That was a joke, obviously.
Was it?
It was 100% a joke.
Just kidding.
We just want to share some of our thoughts about when it comes to interacting with the people that you are working with when you're mixing live sound. A lot of those people are in the band, and let's just dive in immediately. I hate when podcasts take a long time to explain what they're saying. Go ahead, go.
Just band people, musicians, singers. Sometimes the pastor can be a band member.
Yeah, do's and don'ts. Let's start with I think do's are better to talk about than don'ts.
For sure. So do's, first do.
Yeah, what
especially
comes to your mind?
if you're doing so in churches, most of the time there's one soundboard that's doing front of house and monitors for the band. And most small to mid-sized churches for now. And in that, the band is hearing the same thing the front of house guy's hearing, or a variation of that. It's really hard to do your job well if the band is not happy in general. So just general rule, the band should be the first people that you're trying to please, especially if you're doing monitors, but more so because no matter what you're doing, if the band isn't happy, they will not perform, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
They won't perform or play their instrument or sing inspired, which is what we want them to do, because that's what they should be. Yes. Like, they should be singing or playing in an inspired...
Fully in the moment.
Exactly. Fully plugged in with no reservations and full confidence that they are supported. And most of the time, I think that just being a sound guy, most of the time, from the feedback I hear from band members, is that they feel like sound guys give them reasons they can't make them happy, or give them reasons you can't do something that they're asking.
Yes, the overarching answer is no.
Or like we're somehow not on the same team. Yeah, which we obviously are on the same team. Because I want you to sing as well as you can.
Like, in a literal sense, we are on the same team. We're trying to do the same thing, create sound for the people to hear.
100%. And so the first do is to be friends. Interact with these people on a regular basis. Commune, as it were. Yeah, commune. Like have,
go to the pub.
Have community with these people.
Yeah.
Even if you have a completely different like circle of friends or whatever it is, the point is, do what you need to do as a sound person to let the band and the worship team know that you are on their team and you have their back.
Yeah.
There is nothing more insecure, what's the word? It's like nothing more scary or
disheartening or uninspiring. Uninspiring. Yeah,
to know that your sound guy, the guy back there, doesn't want
is not for
to
you
fulfill your needs.
Yeah,
or whatever that means. Like making sure your mix is good in your ears. Yeah, making sure that you have everything you need. Even if that comes down to like if the mic is smelly, like cleaning off the mic.
Yes.
Like, whatever that is.
All of that matters.
It could be the most minuscule thing, but it means a lot to them. And therefore, they will perform, sing, play their instrument better. Yeah. In a less encumbered way.
Yep.
If that's the right word.
No, whatever that word means, encumbered.
Unencumbered?
That word is.
It's
we all
very
know
elusive.
the thousands, the millions of us that are going to hear this.
Millions.
We all know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. Well,
no.
You just don't want people to feel hindered by the sound infrastructure.
Look, okay, so when in 2020,
hashtag COVID.
Yes, hashtag COVID. There's a touring guy. I won't say his name here, but there's a touring guy that started working with me, and this dude's just a legend. I love him so much. And it was interesting because this guy, by the end of 2020, so he joined me right when the pandemic hit because he was a touring guy. All the tours shut down, and he lived in the town where my business was operating.
Yeah,
in Chicago.
Chicago.
Chicago. But what was interesting was I understood what stood out to me and to customers about this guy had nothing to do with his mixing ability, even though he was a good mixer. It all had to do with what we're talking about today, with the way that he interacted with everyone. And it almost became annoying to me how much customers only wanted him back. They only wanted him for anything. So say we went out and we repaired an XLR cable.
Yeah.
They wanted this guy back the next time because he was so great with the people.
We call that bedside manner.
Yes, he was just on it. He was on it. And I think a lot of it was, I remember the first day I met him. You know, it's so funny. I was thinking about this yesterday, which is so weird. The first time I met him, we were doing a live recording for a church that was going to post it. You know what I'm saying? Like when they started like pre-recording services and stuff. It was the first one that they did. It was a big church. And he showed up, and I remember he had this yellow paper notebook.
Notepad,
notepad.
Like that secretaries used to use back in the day.
Yes, back in the day. And he had this big Sharpie that like he kept like biting the top off the Sharpie. He was holding that in his mouth and jotting down notes big, like on this piece of paper. But like I remember at one point he ran up on the stage. He was like sitting cross-legged on the stage, like hearing the flow of the service right before, and he was jotting everything down. And honestly, he kind of made me look bad. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, and they loved him.
Yeah.
You know, and it pushed me forward because I was like, man, like this guy, now I understand why he's worked with all these big artists and stuff. It's not because he acts like a big leaguer around everybody.
Yeah.
It's because like he goes the extra mile to make everyone feel heard. And to make them know that he cares and that he's willing to physically get up, go, like we were talking about in the last episode. Like he's willing to get there, and that goes so far, you know. When that moment when you do say, and I'm kind of jumping forward, but that moment when you do say, "Hey, bro, your guitar sounds a little bit thinner today. Could you maybe like cut some top end, or maybe you could turn up the bass knob or the mid-range knob on your amp a little bit?
Check your settings."
Yeah, could you check your settings, right? Like that comment feels so different on the back end of what this guy did.
Yeah.
Like anyone was open to hear it from him. So I think it's such a big deal, you know.
I have a funny story about that stuff.
Yes, please, go for it. Go for it.
This is actually a horror story.
Please.
So,
the most interesting.
Obviously way more entertaining than whatever that was. That's awesome though. I'm
So moving on to the don'ts.
just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I just like low key trashed. I was no. That's so good to know that going above and beyond actually does something. It's worth like work ethic. It says so much about your character.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
But the horror story that I have is because of stuff I didn't do.
Yeah.
Like I was at this church. It was 2019-ish. I had mixed at this church on and off in the DFW area down the road. And they had this one guitar player come in, bro, and he was like so out of tune, like so out of tune. Everyone else in the band was like, I had good relations, I had good rapport with everybody, and it was so. I was like, I can't remember exactly what happened, but it got to me that I needed to give some feedback. They were like, "Hey, how's everything sounding? Is it good?"
Yeah,
and like in the mic, the
that's
worship
a
leader
dangerous moment in the PA.
me,
or in
he
the
asked
ears.
me, and I was just, this is years ago, and I was just, I just met this guy, the guitar player, this morning. And I was like, "Hey, man, I think something's a little off with your tuning. It might be a little out of tune, but that's the only thing I'm hearing right now." And this guy got so mad. In fact, he got so mad that he came up to the booth before service with people around and yelled at me.
What did he say?
He was just like, "It's not your job to tell me how to do my job." And I was like, "Bro, I'm sorry." And I was just like, "Bro,
it's attitude. My bad."
They asked, I just being honest, about where I was feeling.
He was just really prideful.
And the thing is, like, it wasn't even. I don't even know if it was about his pride. Obviously, that was hurt, but like it was about the fact that I didn't say it to him in his face.
Yeah,
directly
he
to
would
him.
have received it better, guaranteed.
Exactly. And knowing all of that, like the context around how you talk to the band and what you do to make the band feel supported, you can get away with saying anything if they know that what you're saying
for them
is for them. Exactly. And this guy, like, I could have said anything to the drummer. I could have said anything to the bass player. I could have said anything to the singers. Hey, singers, watch your pitch. I could have said that.
Yeah. And the talkback like, that everyone heard, and it would have been fine.
Everyone's hearing, yeah. But this one guy that I didn't have the relationship with. And even though it's not my fault that he was filling in that Sunday.
Yeah.
Right. Those aren't my things, but I should have had the relational foresight.
Yeah.
To like, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry I just met you today, but I think you're a little out of touch."
Yes.
Like I just check your tuning.
Hey, bro, I'm Brandon. It's so great to meet you. Your tone's awesome. Could you check your tuning a little bit?
Your tone is awesome, but tune.
Yeah. No, dude.
It's so funny because it's like
that is being a professional. What I just said.
100%.
That's being a professional.
It's just in my mind. It's like it's a little funny. Your tone's great because part of your tone is your tune.
Yes.
So anyway, but no, that's
encourage
I agree
first.
with you. No, I agree. It's so much more about. It's less about if it's good and more about are they like, because I guarantee you their default, the band's default is better than what you think.
Yeah.
If they know that they can trust you, to be honest, and to support them. So if that default is met every week, all the time it's met, and then there's actually a floor, kind of a baseline expectation where things can actually begin to improve because they'll receive your feedback.
Yes.
Because you're hearing everything together, they are not hearing everything together.
Correct.
They're hearing themselves, the click, maybe some drums, or like whatever. Like there's obviously everyone's different, but most of the time that's what they're listening to.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? One thing I wanted to, no, it's fine. One thing I wanted to get into that everyone, I think, is really important for audio engineers to recognize. Okay, so I want you to think about two kind of like meters, right, of quality. So we have the end product quality, right, what everyone hears, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have the source quality, right? What's coming to the front of house engineer? Yeah. The front of house engineer's skill, let's just call it this static variable, right? For now.
It's like if you're playing Dungeons and Dragons, it's like a +10 attack or whatever.
Yes.
It's like sorry. Yeah.
Just mention some quick demonic games. Yeah. I'm not joking.
Whoa, bro.
I'm joking. I'm joking. No. So we have this bar right here, that is the quality of the sources, and then this bar here is the quality of the end product. Now, we're just going to call this audio engineer an A-level engineer, right? whether they're B or C or whatever, it doesn't really matter. We're just going to call this an A-level engineer. With every time this engineer gets better at what they're doing, they can maybe improve this end product. If the input sources stay the same, maybe like 1 or 2%.
Yep.
It's very difficult to make this better. But if the input sources improve by 1%, the end user experience is going to improve with the same mixer by like 10%. Because the input sources are the most important thing. It's like if you've made the same steak over and over, you cooked it the same way, but then you get better quality meat, the end result gets way better.
Yep.
It's just you improve the quality of the ingredients, the end result gets way better with the same cooking.
I can testify to Tom's steak ability.
Yes, thank you. So my point is this. If your responsibility truly is not to cover your own butt, right? But your responsibility is to get the best product out of the speakers and create the best experience for everybody.
Yeah.
Your investments of time and energy should be made towards improving the sources.
Yep.
And a lot of the time that only comes through what Brandon's been talking about, through building that relationship with the team. Because if you can get them to make that slight tuning adjustment to the snare or that whatever, and even if it takes weeks of building relationship to be able to say to that guitar player, hey, honestly, when you hit that overdrive, the gain goes up by 8 dB.
It's like a completely different guitar.
It's a completely different guitar. Or that guitar that you like using doesn't sound half as good as your other guitar, right?
Yeah.
Or when you run it on this pickup, it's very difficult to fit it in the mix at all. But when you run it here, it sounds great, right? You need to make the investments to be able to say that stuff because the quality of the work that you're able to do, you're affecting the ingredients that you're cooking with, right? And I think you prioritizing that is as important as anything. And to talk back about the employee I had, that's what he was so good at.
Yeah.
You know, he was so good at that, and he could say anything to anyone because they just loved him, you know? But us recognizing improving the ingredients is way more important than improving our cooking skills.
Yeah.
And it's way more important when it comes to the end result and what everyone experiences.
What it does is it helps the band know that what they're doing isn't who they are. Right?
Yes.
It's about the goal is serve the people.
Yep.
Create as transparent a canvas for the Lord to paint on as possible.
Yes.
And if their tone is a little like they're out of tune a little bit, it's going to get in the way. If the mix is off, it's going to get in the way. So when you build relational equity, you are, and they know that. They know that the feedback you're giving is for the greater good. 99% of the time they're in the vote.
Correct.
Very rare will you find the guy who's just going to be like, no, my tone's perfect.
Yep.
Or no, I'm playing it perfectly, or whatever.
Yep.
Kind of a anecdote about that is, I worked with a guy named Kyle Lee. Kyle Lee is an amazing producer out of Nashville. He produced like Leland, Waymaker, that whole album. I did front of house for that. And it was like the recording was in Dallas here at Christ of the Nations. And it was an amazing experience.
Even though that video looks like it's in like some arena, but
it's
amazing video work.
It's amazing green screen. No, but we did that recording.
Yeah, sounds amazing.
And it was that whole like night of worship was just such an amazing experience. But working with Kyle was the biggest thing for me because we got to. Like I was just kind of mixing front of house for this, but I was like looking at him trying to figure out what
does he producer, like what's happening here?
Like what do you like? And he loved the way the drums sounded. It was just funny because he wanted a less snappy snare drum. And Peyton Hilliard played drums on that record, and he's an amazing engineer or amazing drummer. Yeah. And he played this like super like just snappy snare, so I had to like tame that as much as I could, and it was really hard, but we did it. And the front of house mix actually was, it taught me a new way get the same sound, which was super, super important for my just learning.
Mm-hmm.
But Kyle was like, I don't like guitars. And I said, okay, what's the problem? He's like, bring up your EQ. So I brought up the EQ. We had an SD12 there with waves, and there's no EQ. It's like flat, some plugins, but doing very little, which is, I think,
what should be
the way it should be. Like guitars, most of the time,
EQ's going to make them sound worse.
Like if you're EQing, you're cutting 3.5K or whatever. Like you're kind of like make them fit with the keys a little bit better. Right?
Yeah.
But he's like, I just don't like them. They feel weird. And I had put 545s on all the guitar amps because that was at the time, that's our basic. We still use that mic setup in Upper Room. Yeah. And they're great. 545s are amazing, but we just weren't liking it for these guys' tones. So I had brought some 57s, and he's like, let's just put 57s on them. Put 57s on it. And it was like a night and day difference. Like
really, just the less top end?
It was just a
Isn't that the only
bit,
difference?
Yeah, they have the same dynamic range, and they have a little, the 545s have like I think
like
they
a 12K boost or something.
Yeah, it's like a 10K shelf or that's on the top end, and then like there's some sort of low mid cut, I think, or like
cut on the 545s,
or some sort of, I don't know. That might be different. I can't remember.
We could pull them up on Google and look at the frequency response
right now. Let's do it.
But we won't.
But the point is, like, it was like minor difference in mic.
Yes, but it changed the experience.
We went back
a lot.
out to front of house, and it was just like, wow, okay, that's what it should sound like. And I was like, and I was thinking like, wow, how is it that much different? But it was just about getting the guitars to fit in a very specific image in his mind, right? But we didn't have to go to the guitar players and say we want less top end.
You assume the responsibility.
Right? So there's just a huge lesson there, and that is like knowing what part of this is me and the things I'm doing to contribute to the tone.
Yes,
which is mic selection, all those things, and what do I need to talk to the guitar player about?
And the customer became satisfied.
Exactly, and
through an adjustment.
And Kyle,
made.
in this moment, he's the producer. He's the guy making the decisions. He's going to be ultimately mixing the record. He's in charge of everything. And if I, as a front of house guy or a monitor guy, whatever I'm doing, right? Like my role is a service role, right?
Yes.
Front of house, I'm servicing the room.
Yes.
Monitors, you're servicing the band, the singers. So, in this, I'm like helping Kyle get to the sound he wants for this experience.
Yes.
Making sure like tuning is in the right key and all that stuff.
Make sure that the people in that room respond the right way for that video.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly. And for the audience capture, all that stuff.
Yes. Yes.
Making sure it's not too loud. It has to slap.
But not be that loud because the crowd mics need to respond right. Yeah.
Exactly. So
how many crowd mics were on that, by the way?
I think we had 12.
Nice.
I think. In CF&I, that's a lot.
Or a handful.
We had most of them were shotguns. We had some 414s placed. We had some other mics in the middle of the stage that were large diaphragm condensers that we actually didn't like at all. They were too bright.
On the stage?
On the stage is XY the stage, and it just didn't come out like we thought. And it's audience mics are hard because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know exactly how it's going to respond.
How the room responds. So
the way to make
it.
Yeah, the way to make it work is to like have a rehearsal with some people, or like do a service first, right, and then like listen during service before you actually get to your recording portion.
Interesting.
Like do a warm up song and figure out how things are feeling, so you can make some last minute adjustments. But it was really just such a valuable lesson to me because I was like. Well, did we tell the guitar player to make it darker? Well, no, it's not. Like Kyle had the experience to know what the issue was. Yeah. And a lot of that's troubleshooting. It's doing like, do we need to put like Royer 121s on the guitars? No, it's just a minor change that makes all the difference.
Well, and I think something that has stood out to me about you and just getting around like high level engineers is there's this concrete sense of what true north is.
That's good.
Like
that's a one-liner.
You know already what good is, and you know when to stop. But more than knowing when to stop, you know when something. Rarely are you at the point that you should stop, right? I think it's you consistently recognize, this is out of line with what my expectation is. And you can step into a complex environment, a different room, whatever, and know, okay, this is my true north. And just at end of year, like I experienced that big time hearing you mix, because you recognized, okay, because you mixed way louder than I've ever heard you mix, right?
It was
way louder
for sure.
because of the dynamics of the room and the context. But on top of that, you knew, okay, well, here, I need to stop because of, once people are in the room, or because of the low end over there, blah, blah, blah. My point is, you were able to keep, yeah, that's a terrible example.
Okay.
My point is, you were able to keep perspective of what you were trying to accomplish, and you were able to make decisions whether it was going to aid that goal or not. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of us, if we don't recognize what we're trying to accomplish, we need enough mileage to be able to hear what we're trying to do without doing it. And it's like an athlete, right? You need to be able to step on the mound, and you need to see yourself throwing pitches to all four corners. You have to be able to feel it before you even do it.
It's all four corners of the strike zone.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like you have to be able to feel it, and then you can actually do it. If you can't feel that without doing it, you're not going to be able to do it. Like it's just a reality, right?
Yeah. It's super good too, because there's so many important steps that go into all those decisions that make a good experience for people. But by and large, all of those steps are orders of magnitude easier if you have the band on your team.
Oh, man.
Like, you can't do it without them.
Yeah.
And they can't do it without you.
Yeah.
And a lot of times you feel at odds, or we feel at odds with the band because their tone, blaming their tone or whatever. Well, that's a problem that's super easily fixable.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit of relational equity,
Yeah. I think ultimately, like, experiencing your goal should be, I think your goal should be that the band, one, they love when they see that you're mixing, one, but two, like, they get excited, but two, if you're in an environment and you get to a point where the band sounds as good as they think they do, or even slightly better, like what they're hearing and experiencing and feeling is as good or slightly better than reality, or the other way around. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's where you want to be. Yeah. Like they're feeling it, and you're caring about what their in-ears feel like. You're caring about what their whole experience is. That's important. And like people throwing amps up on stage, people trying to do all this. Amps. Yes. Like you're going to deal with all of that, like bass amps on stage that are completely ruining the mix in the room, in this 400 seat room, right?
Yeah.
You have a bass amp on stage that's just adding 120 hertz, like at the most disgusting volume. And you can't stop all the harmonics it's creating. Like, it's only through relationship that you're going to solve that problem.
Yeah.
It's the only solution. So,
hey, bro, can you turn it down? No, I can't turn it down because I need to feel it.
Yeah, because I need to feel it.
Okay.
It's like, all right, you can, So it's only through relationship that most of those problems are going to be solved. I think that's the main lesson.
For sure. Sure. That's good.
Awesome.
Boom. Anything else?
No, that's about it.
Awesome.
Well, great talk. And we will be back here next week.
If it's weekly, we haven't decided yet.
We think it's weekly. Bye.